special this time. It's spiritual this time. We link up as 12 tribe of Israel with our Hebrew Israelite brethren. And today, we burn a fire worldwide. Introducing none other than Orlando Octave.
I will lift up my eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help, my help coming from the Most High, which created heaven and the earth. I have a sword in my hand. Help me to use it more. Boy, them say them no want no positive vibes, is a negative spell that the youths them under. If you not sing about girl and gun and what you have on, them no why hear them song ya. But me stand up for righteousness, conquering lion from the tribe of Judah. And it no matter what them say, hey, wait. Man, I stand firm in Babylon. Should I know we are the Jews of this western land? Repent and return for slave the generation. We living in the last days revelation. Hey, Yahweh, please help me get out on them religion. Help me to open my mouth when I see wrong. Cause I'm an rebel and he's an rebel. They watching, they fighting, they trying to stop me, but I'm an rebel. Them set up them traps, them Pharisees. Give us disease and sell remedies. And them why you pay for salvation? Them digging out the poor man pocket. Credit so cash once you full them bucket. And this stash where you have, you free bring it. One bag of lie they teach us in the name of Jesus. It not take a genius. We see this tricks and politics, deception. Them use for catch man. War to the man and big without it on foundation. Spirit of discernment make me see. Oh hey, boy, Yahweh, please help me get out of them religion. Help me to open my mouth when I see wrong. Cause I'm an rebel and he's an rebel. They're watching, they're fighting. For in the last days man shall become lovers of themselves, covetous, boasters, truth breakers, lovers of iniquity. But you know what I am doing? Me fed up of this system. Now I be a victim, but if we get to you doing the same thing, gun them rise and taking life. Me want the world in every country or mansion, 100,000 acres of farmland. Every ghetto youth have to make it. Every ghetto youth have to. Everybody wants this, nobody invest. Pose up with your gun and your eye confess, and your skull get bomb. But you want war, shouting R and don't know what it stand for. Manipulate them brain so them getting pan them own. Carries the child so you on him a phone. Daddy did gone, mommy alone. Not teach them about ya, just about chrome. Me fed up of the system. Now I be a victim, but every ghetto you doing the same thing. Gun them rise and taking life. Me want the world.
That's the voice of Orlando Octave with a jam called Honorable. All you listening to the words in the song. Me fed up of the system and the manipulating. Hey, Trinidad and Tobago, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. It's just about 11 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. Your girl is here, Precious, alongside Robert. And we are here 2 to 4, but today, because the Prime Minister will be having a press conference starting at 2:30, we're going to bring you guys that press conference live. So we are just here until the Prime Minister comes on to address the nation.
Yep.
In the meantime, what's going on, Robert?
How do you know?
Everything good. I see you start with a strong song, boy.
That song is very strong in many ways. It brings a lot of information, right? I mean, Orlando Octave, big up your whole self, you know, for bringing out such a powerful message, and especially in this time.
Yeah.
You know, as he started this song, he say a lot of youths don't want to hear the positive songs. They just want to hear about gal and gun. You know, that kind of way. And we're living in some trying times. We're living in, you know, scary times.
I heard he said to in this song like the world coming to end.
Yeah. It's serious or no?
I
It's
really don't
serious
know
or no?
what's going on.
It's serious.
lot
I
of
got a
people
call
wait-
this morning. Price Smart closing down.
Yes, a lot of people
closing.
waiting to see what the Prime Minister going to say.
Yeah, it's serious. It's scary.
And remember yesterday the conversation on the show was about self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
You know, learning to feed yourself,
Self.
providing for yourself.
Self.
Food-wise now,
Yeah,
with the little gardening and thing.
exactly. And you know, not only food wise, no precious, but you know, medicine too. Medicine.
Well, you know, I is a girl, I like my
Yeah, I
herbs
know.
and
I know
things.
you. I know you just drink your
But
ginger tea.
every morning I drink in my little Zeba Peak, you know, it bitter.
Ah.
No, because I really,
Yeah, Zeba-
I read that when you soak the Zeba Peak in the puncheon, and you had to take a shot every day.
Yeah.
And I keeping away COVID, boy.
You know.
So I went in tongue on
I
Charlotte
don't come
Street.
about you. I don't
and
come
I
about
buy
you.
my Zeba Peak.
Yeah.
And every morning I drink in my Zeba Peak.
So
We
let-
had to go back to the earth.
You have to go back
God
to
put
the earth.
everything on the earth.
But I
before
was
we-
saying
But we stray so far
Far.
from what God intended.
Gosh, God, preach no precious.
We
Preach.
stray so far
Come on now.
from what the Most High intended.
Come now,
Now,
man.
right now we lost.
You lost.
He come and he dropped this on us
Yeah.
for we to find back we way now.
Yeah. I
But the
remember.
greed and money
Yeah, boy.
and status
Yeah.
is like. Let me get you a little story. You know me.
Yeah.
I like to go dig into my personal archives.
Yeah.
No, my mom from St. Vincent. You understand? So I have family in St. Vincent and thing. And when the COVID, you know, came last year and country started locking down. And I remember the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, Ralph Gonzalez, he said he can't afford to lock down his economy.
Yeah.
So things were going on like normal.
Yeah.
You know what my mom said? Because she looking at as the COVID as a sign for we to find ourselves and
Yeah.
you know live the way he intended us because we really going astray.
Yeah.
And my mom and she bring it to my attention. She was saying, look with the COVID, and he say he not locking down. His country.
Yeah.
Look at what come and happen to them now. And she from there, I have family there.
Yeah. I know that too.
You do try to work against the Most High.
Yeah, you don't do that. You don't do that at all.
You understand?
And what this pandemic is teaching me is, as we said yesterday, self-efficiency. Whereas, you know, do I have garlic in my fridge? I have turmeric there. I have ginger. You talk about ginger tea, turmeric. You talk about garlic. When last you bite about garlic? Garlic good for pressure, you know. You know, but what I'm saying is, are we self-sufficient with these things now, boy? You know, and I just believe that we depending on the system, and the system.
Would you say the system failing us?
Well, the system failing themselves.
Or would you say we not using the system to our advantage?
Or how can no? I don't want to ask a question on top of a question, but how could we use the system?
But some people may
In this-
argue.
in
some
this
people
present time.
Some people may argue that, but we seeing people using the system to get by.
Yeah,
It
but
working for
precious.
them.
Watch how much big companies shut down. How we using the system? How we could use the system now? Think about
Remember, we're on Facebook Live, so share the live.
it.
We're also on YouTube, so you could watch us there as well.
Yeah.
I see in some information here, BPTT confirms 7 COVID cases on an offshore rig. 6 nurses test positive at Mount Hope Hospital, talking COVID. 79 police officers test positive for COVID. And that is taken into consideration 481 of them already on quarantine. Like police officers we talking about. But some good news, we have another batch of the vaccine coming in next week.
Yeah.
So we could all get inoculated
Yeah.
if we choose to, because it's not mandatory as yet.
Yeah.
So
Well, I was now listening to a video where the lady is saying, just like how all those businesses have no mass, no service, they want to say, if you don't have the job, no service. You understand?
So what I'm supposed to be doing?
You have to
walking
take
around with
you
my
have to take the job. You
walking
have to
around with
take
my
the job.
document that I took the job.
Well, yeah, something had to be, put on paper to say, well, you took the job.
But you and see how some countries opening back up.
Yeah.
Right there, the US.
Yeah.
Opening back up.
I spoke to my cousin in the US yesterday, and she told me they were looking to open, right?
So while some countries locking down, some countries beginning to slowly reopen.
Yeah, but it's for how long? It's how long? Because how much time these said countries open up and lock back down? How much time?
No, but before, when there was opening and locking back down, before they didn't have the inoculations.
Yeah, but what they're saying, Precious, is that even if you get a job, right, you will not be it's not like that saving you from getting it again. You understand what I'm saying?
Let me take some calls now because I see my lines were
Busy?
ringing. Yeah, they were ringing, both of them.
All
So
right.
call us back, 342-008-177-11791. And
466-5391.
and remember, we just here until the Prime Minister begins his broadcast addressing the nation, all right? Good afternoon to Marlon on the Facebook Live. Blessings to you too, man. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
You know, I understand what some people think it should be made mandatory, but even if you get the vaccine, you can still get COVID again because the strains coming so fast that the original vaccine is not covering the new strains. So even if you're fully vaccinated, you could get another strain, and I don't think.
Thank you so much, caller. Boy, thank you so much, caller. I have some information to share with you guys before we go back to the phone calls, all right? Remember, you can be a champion in the classroom and play with Milo. Purchase $40 in Milo powder, and you could win a laptop and $10,000 in cash. Plus, weekly cash and sport prizes could be yours. So get ready to win some cool stuff, all right? See press for details or visit Milo Caribbean on Facebook and Instagram. So everybody have a Facebook. Type in Milo Caribbean and you will get all the information you need. Also, Johnny Q's Hardware, located at number 15 Alpita Avenue in Woodbrook, and the new location out there in Tobago, Lowlands Mall, that's off the Claude Noel Highway. You can get hardware, building materials, auto parts, small tool rentals, pets and pet supplies, gravel and sand. All that available at Johnny Q's Hardware. Don't forget about the Power Master, the Optima, the Vata, and the Megastar batteries starting from $488. All right, so you need to check out Johnny Q's Hardware. Hardwares are essential right now, so thankfully those establishments are open still, so you can still go out and get your hardware supplies. All right. So the phone lines are open. We just taking your calls, 342-008-177-11791 and 466-5391. What's on your mind, TNT? Good day. Hello?
Good day, Precious Girl.
Yeah, man.
Good program yesterday, Robert. Good afternoon, man.
Thank you.
Let's set the trend, man. That's nice, man.
Papa,
Precious,
so
I'm trying to remember, sister. What year was that concert? It was in the Savannah, girl, again?
who?
When you performing the concert in Savannah, what year was
Oh,
that
you,
again?
that was Youth Fest. They used to call it?
2000, when she was young.
Youth Fest. Yeah, that was
When
in
you was riding it.
that was in 2000. You going back quite eh?
She was young. She was very young.
That's what you mean.
She was very young. Right now she old.
You're very
21 years of
disrespectful.
Precious, right?
Yes.
Precious.
Was
But
in
I'm-
that concert. I remember you performing there. I really getting old, boy.
Yeah, she
Listen
getting
to
old.
me.
She getting old
Listen
in
to me.
place.
If you go up on Facebook Live and watch me now, you will see I look in the same way. I just
Well-
put on a little size, nothing to talk about.
21 years ago, you was riding it, girl?
Caller, when Precious walk up those stairs, I just be, hear this, I just
I
say,
will cut off your mic.
stand by, medic, stand by. We need the medic, you hear?
Nobody stairs in these
So much
stairs.
damage, boy.
These stairs
All right,
inside
but
their
that's
kind of
nice, man.
hard.
Well, I mean, That means she have a nice heart.
So let me ask you something now, caller. The Prime Minister coming up with his press conference in a short while. What you expecting?
Well, girl, you what's going on? I was in Shoguanas earlier. I was in Shoguanas earlier, and as I say, what I saw is that people still trying to fight against the 8 ball. At the end of the day, every day is fiction, not every day is catching. And at the end of the day, we have to understand we're in a pandemic. And this is the first time it's up. Over 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, millions of people died as well. It's a pandemic.
Right.
It's an unseen enemy. I hear you talk about America, just saw the pressures.
Yeah.
About 300,000 people dead. Because the rich countries have all the vaccinations, all the vaccines, they are able to open up.
Yeah.
That is the difference. They hug and they bought all the vaccines up. Over 100 million plus people vaccinated in America. So they start opening up and having parties in Florida.
Right.
But there's none available to be bought.
Oh,
Right? For the poorer countries.
Right.
So we gotta understand systemic racialism and global racialism. These things are real. These things are real, but it's not a fairy tale.
Yeah.
All the rich white countries have all the vaccines.
So, caller, let me ask. Do you think it was intentionally done like that? That these first world countries, was able to get these vaccines and kind of suppress the third world and what have you?
Well, you get all of that. White supremacy hasn't died. There's a white world we're still living in. So, not to play the victim role with some people, but it's real.
Yeah.
Right? It's real in America, it's real in the world.
Yeah.
That's why Jay-Z could tell you, he being a billionaire, going in a business conference, and he was the only black man in the meeting.
You see? This is a serious thing,
and he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
That's the pressure. So it's real. These things are real.
Yeah.
So it's not a fairy tale.
It's not a fairy. Correct.
And American history is different to us.
Yeah.
Right? Because the black Americans were considered not even human. On the signs of windows was no ends and no dogs allowed. That was real. That real thing 60 years ago. So what I'm saying is, so when you see these things happening again, right, and we saw happen under Donald Trump, right, we saw how he raised the head of that. So what I'm saying is, we're going to lock down the compression. Don't rile up yourself. All I ask for pressure before I go. The government have been humane from the start. And we can't leave people hungry. Right? We have done that. That doesn't do no PM and no UNC.
Well, that's what I've been saying.
We must be clear.
It don't seem.
It's not a bottomless. It has $6 billion U.S. Heritage and Stabilization Fund. We have 8 months of import cover. Right? All the other savings is gone. We're pouring all over the world. So you can't just go in the back of, say, fresh as we walk up by the savannah and look for the biggest set of trees and just sort of pick leaves and turn it into some money.
But I saw caller, not cutting you across, but I saw yesterday on the Guardian that like some businesses were asking that they dip into the stabilization fund.
Right, they did that the first time.
So you're saying we shouldn't do it again?
No, we should do it in this critical time to feed people. That was the only money that wasn't touched by the last administration. Because they need it. We would have known. Pressure would have found out, Robert would have found out.
Right.
So they can go and take that. Because they had to go back to Parliament to book an act in order to get it. But the 16 billion that was there in DC, that was vacuum out.
Right.
So it's not to involve all in that high society politics.
No, bring it.
Please don't.
Right?
No, bring it.
The matter is, right, the government, everybody had to get a little crumbs on the table. But we got to be reasonable and understand that it's not a bottomless pit of money that they can just go behind higher with a bucket and just dip water. But as I say, they have been fair so far. There's $6 billion, almost $7 billion U.S. in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. That took already from it. They accrued that interest, the payment for, and I expect them to do the humane thing, but people don't realize that here what's going on. There's a pandemic, things is not normal times. We had a rock back, health. I'm going to leave here with this scene. Right? I'm going to have a lot of wise men and Woodbrook right while there's depression all around there. And I have Chinese man that tell me something once. He said money is good, money is nice. Money is important, precious. But he said, young boy, never make money your Jesus Christ. That is why I choose not to do illegal things to survive. Enjoy the program, right, precious?
Yeah, man, blessings.
Blessings. Precious. You see what that man talk? That man talk real deep information. And when I talk about deep, I mean high society kind of business.
But why saying, right? And callers will correct me if I'm wrong. The Heritage and Stabilization Fund is more or less an emergency fund, right? This pandemic is an emergency.
Right.
But what I think in long term and future, when we dip into that and all the money gone, what will become of us? Then we would have to turn to the oh gosh, we call it the World Fund people.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I remember there were talks about that before, that we do not want to go there, because when they give money, it's not giving, it's loan, and then we have to pay it back.
Yeah.
So we have to make do with what we have.
What we have. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sweetheart.
Hi, moms.
How come I don't want to tell us what I hope the Prime Minister coming to talk about today?
Well, that was the question, so what you
You want to
expecting?
hear me loud and clear?
Loud
Stop
and
play away. Stop we play away. Stop we play away. We can't get food to buy. We can't get bread to buy. But we had the men and them going out and marching one behind the other. We want prayers right now, precious.
We want prayers.
Precious, we need prayers.
Yeah, but moms, when you call for their prayers, when you look the handful of people out there, small.
What do you mean? What you say?
Yeah, when you call for their prayers,
Precious,
people to come out and come. And,
Precious.
Nobody else
Them
come
men
out
and
with
them climb up on one another back before the hour reach the paper away. Dr. Ravi, stop the paper file coming, please.
Yeah, but
I'm begging you, please. Keep
Moms,
our
you know,
back
moms,
up.
you- moms, you know,
Don't
endorsing
put
that
outside
here,
on the road
no.
right now.
Moms, we not endorsing that here. We have to play with it.
Come on, them home. It's the only recreation they have right now. And they catching the gambling.
Thank you, moms.
No, but that and all is a serious contribution, right? Because I heard somebody said yesterday that, with all the conferences having the media the press conference and what have you, nobody no come with no prayer in a pandemic. Nobody in offering no prayer. No religious leaders in coming. You know, kind of way. I mean, we need to wake up. We need to wake up.
Put on the WhatsApp.
We need to wake up.
Let's take this one. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Precious.
Blessings.
I'm to your co-host.
Mm.
Good afternoon.
I heard you all was speaking about the vaccine and stuff like that. You see, it comes right back down to one person was saying white supremacy. But we need to think about this on a wider scale. Ask yourself this one question: why was it created, this pandemic?
Robert have a whole conspiracy theory on that.
No, it's not just conspiracy theory. You see, the person who created this, right? It really goes to show you when you have money and you don't know what to do with it, you will do foolish things, right? For it's not the love of money, it's the root of it that makes it evil. It's what you use to do with it that makes it evil. We are facing a pandemic right now, and the thing about it is I keep hearing people saying the Heritage Fund. We can't just keep going back to something and taking out. Eventually, it's going to finish, right? We're looking at where the Prime Minister actually said at one point that he's going into to take out money to help persons in need and stuff like that. But to me, I think that there are a lot of persons who are deserving of it that are not, it's not reaching who's really deserving of it, right? I have a friend personally right now. Yesterday, she was calling the hotline, right, the COVID hotline, and she hasn't gotten through up until this time.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Paula.
Paula.
Thank you so much. So the Prime Minister has started his press conference. We know everybody, is anxious to hear what he's about to say. So we're going to go to that right now, all right? We're setting it up to go to that right now.
Today, someone commits my help, while coming from the Most High, which created heaven and the earth. I have a sword in my hand. Help me to use it all. Boy, them say them no want no positive vibes, is a negative spell that the youths them under. If you not sing about girl and gun and what you have on, them no why hear them song, yeah. But me stand.
Broadcasting from Trinidad to the world, the Street919FM.com.
In the response of the national community.
So much things I want to say. Can I say something? No, really.
Even after we have been on this since mid-March, I would say, pointing that there was something that could come if we didn't do certain things, something that will come. Then we started seeing the realities of it in small doses, but the projections, because we do make these projections. Statistically, Dr. Hines has been doing an outstanding job in being on the cases, which allow us to make the projections, which gives us an idea. If you keep adding 2 plus 2, you're going to get 4. And if you have 4 days, you're going to get 16. But if you multiply them by 16, you're going to get a certain number. So this is being done. I mean, it's not that we are doing it because of a scream and a shout outside. We monitor this on an ongoing basis. And it is the projections that allow us to be able to take certain interventionist actions. The projections that we had last time, and I must apologize for what happened last time, some of you in the national community, depending on what platform you were on, you would not have seen the gist of what Dr. Hines was basing his nervousness on. Because there is some technical glitch somewhere. Some people on, I think it's one of the platforms at Flow or TTT, something like that. But the months of March and April, which is where the projections were not visible to you. So while you were hearing what he was saying, and while he was drawing his conclusions, you were not able to see the data. I hope today that would have been rectified. I'm advised by my colleague, Minister of Communication, that it has been. So Dr. Hines will go through his whole arrangement again. But let me just say this about the disappointment I expressed. For God's sake, there's only one way to tell you that this is so. If I tell you anything else, that is either going to be inappropriate, incorrect, untrue, irrelevant. We have been trying to share all the shareable information that we've had. As a matter of fact, what we have been living with is every time we take a suite of decisions, saying that this package of decisions, if followed, will cause us to be in a certain kind of position. A large number of people decide that their reaction to that is to seek exemptions from that, either officially, to be left out officially, or illegally, or just crazily. I can get away from that, if only to show that I can do it. Or, but I am not sufficiently sensible to know that if I do that, me and my friends and my neighbors, and so eventually we get a big enough group in the population that undermines what we're doing. We have been monitoring our communities, especially our urban or semi-urban communities. We have been monitoring our response. It is impossible to assign a police officer to every citizen. We have 1.375 million people in this country. We have on any given hour of the day between 5,000 and 7,000 policemen in the country. It's impossible to police every person, so don't ask for that. It's not available. Also, even if it was available, it is not feasible to handcuff and manacle everybody who has infringed the law here and there, because you will end up with no place to put them and no courthouse to try them. So it's not feasible to go down that road. The road we have to go down if we are to escape is that we want a certain high level of cooperation, because this is a matter for the individuals. I woke up this morning holding back my own tears for that family where father and son in the same household within hours would have passed. Ladies and gentlemen, these are not numbers. These are people in families who are bearing that. The fact that nobody has died in your family is not an excuse to play the fool. And if we have to wait until it happens to us to respond, to protect us, well, then all would be lost. And it is my job to make sure that all is not lost. Imagine today reading a citizen saying, we're only getting information, but we want to see the dead people in the hospital to be convinced that there's COVID and it's causing death. You serious? Well, I'm trying to avoid you seeing enough dead people in our hospital, but I have something to show you. Go and look at other countries that lost control of their management of COVID and see what that situation has produced. I don't know that we are disconnected from the pain and suffering that is taking place in India today. Our Commonwealth sister, our connection by virtue of our diasporic connections, and of course right in our own neighborhood here in Brazil. And I want to remind the people of Trinidad and Tobago, those of you who are obsessed with this border story. There are two CARICOM countries that are in close physical contact with Brazil. And those borders and those populations, they don't have fences, they don't even have security guards or even military guards in some instances. There's a freedom of movement in South America that Trinidad and Tobago cannot eliminate or disregard. And that freedom of movement, legal or illegally, comes all the way from Tierra del Fuego right into Port of Spain, because we are only 7 miles from Venezuela. We are part of the South American geography. So when there's a pandemic, we have to see ourselves exposed. And we are exposed. And not only exposed, but seriously threatened. What we have been doing is taking certain interventions, expecting them to be observed, and bringing us a pullback from the threat that is in front of us. I don't have to tell you, especially you in the media, because you have been seeing it, you have been reporting it. It appears as though calling on the population to do certain things have stimulated a certain kind of opposite response. Instead of responding in the way that we are to respond, to roll back the threat, in the last few days, it appears as though people have taken this to mean that the carnival that we lost in February, we're going to take it now. And what has been the result of that? As things go more difficult, become more dangerous, it becomes even closer and closer to the reality of a loss of control. I'm saying to the country, we have not yet lost control of our virus fight. But if we do not tighten the grip on what we know has to be done, we will lose the grip on managing the level of infection in the country. We're not prepared to allow that to happen. I could tell you I'm amazed at how many people are taking the position. Yes, we know this has to be done. In fact, more should be done. But can I be excused from it, please? You have no idea. We from this podium, from this table, from the Ministry of Health and from the Ministry of Trade and Finance and so on, we have been trying to be as firm as we could with the protocols, first giving first priority to the preservation of life, but right next to that, acknowledging that we need to preserve some livelihood. And that is why, as I read the editorial today in one of the papers, they spoke about a confusion in the details of the restrictions. The reason for that is that so many people want a way out, an exemption, that to get anything done, you have to write the regulations as descriptively as possible. Otherwise, you leave out a whole lot of people who should be in because they assume an exemption. And I plead not guilty to not taking the population on board in this fight. We have been talking to the population. The only thing we have not been giving you is patient's name and who infected them. Everything else we have shared with you. And therefore, there's no more detail to come in terms of additional category of data. What is coming now is enough to tell us that we are in a worrisome place, and that is our level of infection, the rate of infection is much, much too high, and it will have a certain consequence. Unfortunately, those consequences would now have further negative impact on the economy, because what we are required to do now is further close. Further closures are required. And of course, continued enforcement, hoping to be rescued from this situation by a dramatic turn in the behavior of the population. And for those who want to see the bodies, be careful what you wish for. You might not like what you would see, because the person that you may have infected and killed might be right inside your own home. And for those who believe that in this pandemic, what is an essential is something that has the effect of exposing yourself to infection unnecessarily or infecting other people, I don't know that that's what you're saying to me. The fundamentals of our response as a country remains that we want to reduce the amount of people who are interacting with other people, and we want to restrict the amount of people on the move in the country. So, except for the absolute essentials of requirements to get food and water and electricity and pharmaceuticals and so on, and to keep the kind of livelihood to pay some of those bills, the rest of this country is to batten down for the next 2 weeks. I am here asking the Commissioner of Police, because I am not to direct the Commissioner of Police as to who he puts his hand on, but I could ask him to ensure that he and his men and women, who are now called upon to do even more than they were doing, to please encourage the population in all the ways you know how. Encourage the population that bad behavior has a consequence. Otherwise, the price that we are going to pay might be too high for the families that are going to have to pay them. I would like at this stage to ask Dr. Hines to tell us his story. And I hope that just confirm that the whole slide is working well, right? Yes, Dr. Hines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. Good afternoon, Honorable Ministers, colleagues, members of the media, members of the viewing and listening public. We're starting off basically where we left off a couple of days ago, updating on what we've been seeing trend-wise with respect to the numbers of cases and the situations projecting forward. What we see right now is the total number of cases that would have been added to the cumulative total. So we had 291 new positives, and out of those 12,396 total positives, we have 3,236 active positive cases. Out of those active positives, we have 303 persons in hospital. The hospital figure is one of our concerns. While I'm not going to go through the rest of this slide in a lot of detail, just bear in mind that the more cases we get, the more active cases we will have, and a proportion of those will be hospitalized, so that hospital figure will continue to rise. As we move to the next slide, what we see is that epidemic or epidemiologic curve, bearing in mind that what we would see on the left-hand side would be from July, end of July into August, September, when we had our big peak last year. That now doesn't look quite as big, because as we look to the other end of our slide, which I hope we can all see, the right-hand side of the slide with the colorful bars going from green to blue to orange to purple, we see an increasing height of those bars, and the dotted line, that's the rolling average, running upwards, meaning that there's an increasing trend. So that increasing trend, that increasing height, is the cause for concern that we're currently speaking about, as we see larger and larger numbers on a daily basis. The numbers for May are reflected in that yellow bit to the right-hand side. And again, those numbers continue that upward trend. So the upward trend to date has not abated. As we move to the next slide, what we see is the weekly disposition of the same data. So instead of looking at the information on a day-by-day basis with a lot of fluctuation, we're looking at the totals from week to week over the same period, starting in July, moving through August and September in that gray section, that the high part of the gray section being August and September when we had that peak last year, and then we saw that downward movement. And now, again, looking at the right-hand end, week by week, the purple bars being the ones that represent April, we see that very rapid increase in the height of those bars. And the bar that's at the end, the first week of May, bear in mind the first week of May is not yet done. And this is data as of yesterday. Yet still, we have nearly reached the same figure as the last week of April. Also bearing in mind that the background, that orange or salmon, I'm not sure what color it looks like on your television, but that area in the background represents, if you look to the right-hand side, the percentage positivity, meaning the level of positivity, percentage of people out of 100 tests that we do, what percentage come out as positive for COVID, and that has climbed to about 37%. You see the upward trend throughout the time frame. Now, I want to point something out at this point, something that we haven't really addressed as an analogy before. We can look at this like a fire. The fire needs three things in order to burn. We need fuel. Unfortunately, the population is the fuel that's just being burnt. We need some sort of heat. This positivity, this level of virus in the population is the heat. And the oxygen, the thing that makes this burn, is contact, people getting into contact with each other. If we want to stifle this, then we need to reduce that contact. That's how we're going to bring one of those three elements out of that triangle of combustion. If we look at the next slide, because people recognize and understand months better than epidemiologic weeks, we see that the gray section again, July, August, all the way through to December, with the tallest month, the highest peak for 2020 being September. Looking at January in green, February in blue, March in orange, we saw the downward and then slight upward trend, and then the big jump to just as many cases in September in April. So April and September, basically similar numbers of cases. Bear in mind again, this is the completed month of April, and the first week of May has more than half those cases. So the speed that we're going at, that upward trend, has not abated. Looking at the overall distribution, we've seen this before, we've seen it several times at this point. the overall population affected between July and now has a particular distribution where the majority of those persons are in the 25 to 49 age group. And if we just look at the April data, we see that that is basically still reflected. It's not a different distribution, same distribution of people in terms of age groups being affected, and it's about half male, half female. Looking at the deaths, however, we do see that there are a lot more men than women. And though we have a few extra, there's an increase in the proportion of women in this recent time frame, it's still majority men. But the younger age groups, we're seeing greater reflection of illness and death showing up in those age groups. And when we talk about the clinical presentation, we will have a little more information on that. Now, these are the projections that we were speaking about that I believe did not render properly. Now we're looking at all the way from when we had the lull, April, May, June, starting in July, and then that upward trend, the first bit in August, and moving all the way to the right-hand end, we see some lines that stick out at the top of the, or the end of that graph. And those lines were projections made at different points in time. The green one, which is the one we're going to focus on, the tallest one, is a projection made using the rate from the end of April, last couple of weeks of April, looking at the 14th to the 28th. And at that point in time, we made a projection that the cases will rise by a certain amount over a given time. And we see that we're actually exceeding that at this point in time. We're going to zoom in on that. So we see where